Welcome back to the Chasing Happiness podcast, an honest podcast about finding happiness, what it really means, and the process of getting there. My name is Crystal, and today I'm going to have an amazing conversation that I've been looking forward to all week with Angela Marshall. Now, we have a lot that we can talk about because you're a motivational speaker, you're a best-selling author. There are so many things as far as labels go that I could put on you, but do you want to actually introduce yourself to everybody who's listening for people who might not know you?
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me. I am very excited to be on Chasing Happiness because I am truly chasing and pursuing happiness, all things happiness. I am Angela Marshall. I am from Augusta, Georgia. For those of you listening that are fellow Georgians, hello from the down south with my southern drawl, as you can hear.
Love it.
I am a creative content consultant. I am a published author. I am also a mother. I am a grandmother, and I am a woman on a mission to help others to live vicariously through yourself.
I love it. I love it. And let's talk about that because I think especially nowadays, we were talking a little bit just before we started recording about how people's minds are sort of shifting a little bit. Mindset, attitude towards life, everything has shifted a little over the last couple of years. And this idea of sort of living vicariously through yourself is kind of a new concept for a lot of people. So how did this start for you?
Well, I am an ex-NFL National Football League wife. My ex-husband played in the football league for about 6 years, and the pressure surrounding that to be something other than who I was or who I am and who I was becoming was just kind of getting to me. I got tired of people coming up to me thinking that my life was just so phenomenal and so great, was without issues. And they would always say, "Oh, I wish I had your life," or if I had your life. And I would always try to be very polite and be very cordial and answer them or just converse with them and say, listen, just because my life is this, or even for some of them, you look like this, or you have this, and there's this stigma or the stereotype that people think that you have it all together. I'm like, no, I have the same issues, trust me, that you have. The only one that wasn't a huge issue at that particular time, and I'm going to be honest, was money. The money was good when we were in that lifestyle. But as far as having problems, we have 2 amazing adult children now, but they were younger, trying to rear and discipline and raise them, to be good citizens and good people, good people. My ex and I, obviously, I keep saying the word ex, we're divorced. So that tells you one problem. That tells you one problem that I had. So living vicariously through yourself is just really, taking stock in what you want for yourself. Now, that is not a catch-all to just go break laws and rules or whatever of society. Sure. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, just like for me, I'll give you a good example. The other day I was walking out and a friend of mine was like, it's after, I forgot what she said. And she's like, you're not supposed to wear white. I'm like, who said I'm not supposed to wear white? They, the infamous they. Well, I had on white shoes today. I got on white leggings. And it's just things like that where societal pressures, trends, styles, status, power, whatever. Like it really doesn't matter at the end of the day for people to try to validate you or, make you into these little cookie cutters and say that that's how everybody should be. No, we have to stop that. And that's why, I'm really, really pushing that mission very, very hard for people to understand how important it is to live vicariously through yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable.
Yes. And I love that you touched on this because especially with social media, being of the generation that I am, we grew up playing outside. Social media didn't exist, right? Like video games weren't really a thing. And so I have sort of the best of both worlds in a lot of senses. I know what it's like not to have social media. I can live without it. Although most days I choose not to, I could, right? So we are so consumed, I think, right now as a society, focused on, look at this pretty perfect image so-and-so has, or the wonderful lifestyle they have, because you see that curated perfect picture for 2 seconds of their life. And people then make assumptions about what's going on in their life, as you touched on. But the truth is, we are all human beings trying to navigate the human experience, which is messy and complicated. And a lot of the times means facing things we never thought we would have to face in the real world. So, for everyone who is listening, just like keep in mind the judgment that you have because, something looks perfect on the outside is only giving you a 2-second snapshot of a whole life of experiences. And you really have no idea what other people are going through, right? Like
Absolutely.
it's
My people do not believe that whole hype about I woke up like this. That is not true. I
so
try to tell
true.
people that all the time. Like what you see before you or certain pictures, which I'm so transparent. I do. Sometimes when I wake up, I snap the picture exactly like it is and I'll post it. And those are for my people that, maybe feeling some type of way of going through something mentally or emotionally, and they need to see a humanized person. Not just someone who posts that I went here, I did this, and I'm all dolled up, I'm glammed up, or whatever the case is, because that's not how things are 24 hours a day. It's impossible. So I 100% agree with you. Looking at all of the images and different shows on TV or the infamous lives of the celebrities and all of that, and people in positions of power, and that's great. Again, kudos to them because they are achieving, they are excelling and doing everything that they want to do in life. So this is not a bash towards that. It's just when we on the outside or people, when we're looking at anybody's life, it could be your coworker, your colleague, another family member, we should always look with eyes of, okay, this person is not better than me and they're going through some issues, I'm pretty sure, just like I am. So,
Right.
I'm not going to try to make a comparison against that person. So that's important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an important part of life. And I think, especially, I don't personally have kids, but you spoke about being a mom. I'm surrounded by moms. Everyone I know has babies or young children because that's just the age group that I'm in. And I think, especially as a parent, you are constantly looking at other parents like they have it together, they know what they're doing. But the truth is, nobody does.
No, and trust me, little people that they're responsible for, they're like just as frazzled because their parents are still trying to figure it out, and then we're trying to help them figure it out. But I get it. That's what I'm saying. Like people don't understand. Truly, all humans share the same feelings and emotions. Now, where we kind of, maybe take a different path is mentally and emotionally how we're willing to grow, so that those little times the times that we're frazzled, that we can make the best of them, or we can make the best out of lessons, out of loss, out of mistakes, and do better and become better. But when you look at a person, whether it's a mom and it's like, okay, well, she seems to be all organized, you just don't know behind the scenes what it took for the parent to get to that particular point. And that makes a difference. Just looking at looking through eyes with comparison, to compare, or either thinking that, someone else has something that you don't, is not true. We are all a mess. We are all evolving. We all are facing issues, and we are all just trying to be, like you said, in this shell, be the best human being. And, hopefully some of us on that mindful journey, we're trying to be the best spiritual being that we can be as well.
Yes, absolutely. And some days that looks better than other days. And some days,
Absolutely.
Some days it's a hot mess, right? Like that's
Absolutely.
just part of the experience.
I do not wake up like this.
Exactly.
I do not wake up like my pictures.
I love it. I love it. So for people who are listening to the podcast, if they've never before sort of thought about living vicariously through themselves or what that even looks like, where would you suggest they start?
Well, first of all, it starts with you looking in the mirror and facing yourself. So many times we try to dismantle external problems or issues, and that's not the source of the problem.
Right.
The problem usually, and 99.99999% of the time, it lies within us. Like for myself, when I decided to start living vicariously through myself, it was a conscious decision because one, I'm like, well, I'm miserable trying to live like somebody else, or like, these chameleons that people want me to be, or they're placing me here, here, here. And then I'm just adapting and adjusting and trying to morph into everything that everybody wanted me to be. And then I was miserable living how I thought I should live. And I'm like, but you know what? I think at least I'm a little less insane if I just try to live vicariously through myself, or if I just try to be and do and have for me, as opposed to this long list of society, because you will never, ever be good enough. You will never be, tall enough, pretty enough, skinny enough, or smart enough, or whatever, or have enough things after your name. It just won't happen when you talk about trying to receive validation outside of yourself. So the first step is just to face yourself, just to know, say to yourself, what do I truly want in this life and from this life? And you just start there. I started journaling, writing down certain areas that I knew I was unhappy in. And then I started unpacking those things. Okay, well, I'm unhappy here. Why? And then I started coming up with solutions and resolutions that was going to make me happy. And I was like, as I started, checking off the list, and which is really crazy because I started with, I don't know, like 5 things or 10 things.
Sure.
But the list, every time I cross something out off, Crystal, I'm adding something else. So it's the whole part about evolution and growing. And that's what I want people to understand about living vicariously through yourself. It's not that you're on this journey for perfection, or that once you achieve some sort of this inner peace, like there still won't be woes or there won't be issues that you have to face. No. There probably will be more.
Yes.
But you'll handle them better.
And I love that you brought this up, Angela, because it 100% you start the sort of the list in your mental mind and you're like, okay, well, I've achieved this thing. Now I've suddenly obtained happiness. But because you've changed, you've grown, what you then want changes and grows. And it's a constant evolution that just keeps changing and growing. So it never really ends. And I know people will ask me all the time, especially my clients will ask me all the time, like, when will I actually be there? And I'm like, I don't think you ever get there. Like, I just don't think there is a there. It's about the process.
The only thing is trying to obtain peace within your mind, so that the journey, the paths, the destinations, the goals, the aspirations that you have, you're just going to be enlightened, and you're going to be, you're going to be entertained. You're going to have fun along the way, no matter what that is. Like you and I, when we first started out, and it was like, well, it's a day. Yep. Another 24 hours. So that told me everything I needed to know. You had a couple of things going on, or whatever. I've had for the last week, I've had some things going on that, aren't so favorable, but I'm a big advocate of just making sure that how you react, making sure that you are, taking care of the situation to the best of your ability. And that doesn't mean sulking or creating more problems. One thing I do with my clients is when I know that they have an issue or there's a weakness, I'm like, okay, I will give you, 2 to 3 sentences about the issue or the weakness. Now give me 10, 12, 1,000 sentences about the solution and the problem.
Sure.
Because I do believe on what you focus on will grow. Right. So, just making sure that living vicariously through yourself, you are taking care of every single detail as it relates to, okay, here's what I need to do. Here's why I'm going to do it. And then I understand that probably when I get out of this one, there's another one waiting for me. But hey, I'm strong. I'm ready for it.
Exactly. And that's the thing we were sort of talking about before we started the podcast, as you had mentioned, because, sometimes it does happen, this is life. And sometimes the days are just days. And you're like, is it, 5:00 yet or whatever it happens to be? And it's okay, because as long as you can acknowledge those days are going to exist, not all of them are going to be like that. But how you show up in those difficult moments really matters, because if you spend the next 6 days focused on that one negative day that you had, you're going to miss so many wonderful opportunities and things that come your way. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because that mind shift, that mindset is so important.
People don't understand just how powerful the mind is. And it's crazy because everyone that is of age and, maybe were brought up in the church or even just in self-help books, we read all the time, as you think, so shall you be, or if you think
Right.
this and that. And we say it on the surface, but then we still think all of these defeating thoughts, or we give into self-sabotaging routines, habits, words,
Right.
circles, people, all of that. And so it's kind of like, wake up, like you want to just jar yourself and say, well, wake up. Am I believing the words that are actually coming out of my mouth? One of the things, I have a group of mentees ages 17 to 22, and I'm always telling them, you have to be careful about the words that you speak, even in jesting or in joking, because, your subconscious, like, it doesn't know the difference.
Right.
And whatever you speak, like, your heart and your mind will obey it. So if you're constantly telling yourself you're not good enough, or you're not, well, you're believing for something, and then you're saying, well, but it probably won't happen. Guess what? It's not.
Right.
You've already just, discounted everything that you've done, you've undone in the universe, or, whatever you're working for towards is saying, nah, she doesn't really want it. We're not going to
Right.
give it to her. So I thought, with your podcast with Chasing Happiness, how relevant just to my own life. Because for a long time, I actually was chasing problems,
Mm.
turmoil, issues, doubt, fear, intimidation, anything that did not include happiness. And so at some point again, there's that facing yourself in the mirror, or just facing yourself, period, and understanding,
Right.
what do I want in life? And in order to get it, you have to be very, very sold out in your mind as far as like what you want out of this life. So either you're going to chase happiness or you're going to chase hurt. What do you want?
It's so true. And I think it's really important for everyone who's listening to just remind yourself that sometimes you are going to, when you stand in front of that mirror, you are going to realize, oh my God, I've been chasing the hurt. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just refocus, because it's going to happen. We've all been there, right? It's just a matter of, okay, well, I did focus on this thing, and that's not where I want my focus to be. Be mindful and then shift back.
Hey, shift happens.
I love it. I love it. This is amazing. I love this conversation. I do have a couple of questions though, because it's not very often that people decide to write a book. And if they decide to write a book, it's not very often they actually finish writing a book and become a best-selling author. So what prompted that part of your journey?
Again, as I mentioned about people coming up to me and trying to assess different parts of my life and just telling me how great they thought my life is, and all of that in between. And honestly, I got tired of telling the story. Now, mind you, rewind, I had been journaling about my life, just different things that I was going through that was, either disturbing me or I was disturbing it, or whatever the case was. I was doing a lot of journaling. So the book, well, one of the books that I wrote, which was the autobiography, it was really already wrote. All I had to do was just pull all them journals together, sit before the computer and type up the manuscript and all of that. But I just decided that I wanted to share and tell my story, like so many before me and so many after me will do, because I solely believe that I have a duty, that different struggles and different things that I've gone through in life, that I need to let people know, so that way they won't feel so alone. I think that, a lot of times people really get into their minds that this whole, thing of people's lives being better than theirs, that's where the depression starts. And I didn't want to be this person with, great, what I feel is a great struggle to success story, and not tell it and not share it. So that's why I decided to, to put it out there for the world. And it's crazy because my editor was like, after she read it, she said, you do understand that once this is published, this is in black and white, you can't take it back. You just
Sure.
got to go forward with it. And when I read it, the finished manuscript, I was like, yeah, this is going to be really good. And it was also therapeutic for me. So I would really exhort your listeners that sometimes, even if your intention is, okay, well, I want to publish a book, and you just get so far as to just writing or journaling about certain things, it's going to be the best thing for your life ever, even if you never publish it. Because I'm telling you, like, even sitting before you, and I've told this story live, I've told it podcast, across different platforms. It's so therapeutic and freeing. And the mission for others is for me to, impact and influence them through my words, work, and wisdom. But the mission for me personally, is to be free. So that's why I decided to, just write about my life and other things. Even my poetry book, people don't realize this, but it's not fictional. So every topic, all the content that's in there, I actually lived it, and I just penned about it.
That's amazing. I love that. And for everyone listening, of course, I will put in the show notes the link to the books, to the website, to the social media, to all the fun stuff. But I wonder, because you have all of this experience, you have all of this growth and change in your life at this point in your life, because I know it'll be different at different points. What inspires you?
Oh my gosh, my grandchildren. And my children are going to get me for that, because they always say it's like we don't exist anymore.
Aww.
So for your listeners, I have a 33-year-old son, I have a 31-year-old daughter, and I have 5 biological. I have 5 amazing grandboys. Aww. And the greatest inspiration that I get is knowing that their eyes and their ears are watching me. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, I'm not the first barrier. The parents actually are, because they don't live with me. But it just gives me a sense of responsibility and accountability for me to do better and be better. So even when I'm going through moments of like, I really don't know, is this truly my purpose, or is this, or reacting or receiving, or whatever the case, whatever I'm going through, I always bring them those 5 amazing boys, and they range from age 14 to 3. Aww. I always bring them in my forefront to think, what type of legacy do I want to leave? And I'm not talking about money or materialistic things, or even the books, just for them to have some sort of seeds that I planted, that I'm investing into them. So when they get, of age, and I'm gone or whatever, they can exude that behavior or those routines to make them the most incredible people that they can be. That's what inspires me.
Oh, I love that. And, people can't actually see us because this is a podcast, but the way you light up when you talk about them is just so heartwarming. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I think lots of people can relate to that, right? Especially if you're a grandparent, whether you're a parent, grandparent, whatever, like anyone who has kids in their lives, they're like little sponges. They see everything you do. They're paying attention, whether you think they are or not.
Oh my gosh, my son, like I mentioned, he's the oldest, he's 33. And some of the things that he tells me from the failed relationship between my ex, his dad and I, it's amazing. He was like 3, 4, 6. Wow. And you don't think that they're watching, or that they're listening, or that they're learning, but they are. Like even when we're down on ourselves. And that's why, especially now, it's not like I try to be this positive penny all the time, because I want them to understand how to resolve things and how to appropriately get anger out, because there is an appropriate way to get anger out, or to be disappointed, to be unhappy. But more importantly, I want them to, be able to say, okay, am I chasing the disappointment, or am I chasing assignment? Am I chasing unhappiness and bitterness, or happiness? And it just makes a difference.
Oh, I absolutely love the answer to that. Oh, so fantastic. I have a couple of other questions that I typically ask people who come on the podcast. And really, the biggest one that I want to ask you is, what does happiness actually mean to you at this point in your life?
It means freedom, total freedom, freedom of my time, freedom of my mind, freedom of my emotions, freedom of the ability for me, again, to leave an incredible legacy for, I'll include my children this time too, for my children, my grandchildren, my clients, my colleagues, co-workers, family members, friends, even strangers, because as you know, having podcasts or the exposure that we have globally, I just want strangers, or I want to positively impact people. So as long as I'm able to do that, if I'm able to just bring some sort of clarity or influence to them that's going to better their life, that's true happiness for me.
I love that. And I think you bring up a point that a lot of people often forget about, and that's we never really know the impact that we're having because we live in this world that we live in, right? And you never know who's listening to you on a podcast or who happened to hear you interacting with someone, even at a grocery store or whatever it happens to be. And there's this weird ripple effect that happens in life just because you show up authentically and vicariously through yourself, whatever it happens to be, you impact people you will never know about in the positive way. And so if you can recognize that it matters how you show up in the world because of that, you will never fully understand the grasp and the change that you've imparted in the world, but you will get to see some of it, right? Like your inner circle, all of the people around you, the clients you work with, for example, like you get to see that. And then they go out and they change the world based on their experience with you. And the whole
Domino
ocean
effect.
becomes, yes. Yes. Oh, absolutely love that. And I'm so glad you touched on that because I think often we forget that we do have that kind of an impact because we're so busy living in the middle of our own chaos, right? And I had a girlfriend say to me once, how many people have you helped? And I kind of didn't even know how to process the question. And I was like, I don't know, this many clients or whatever. And she's like, no, seriously, like, how many people have you helped? Think about every person who's ever come to you for advice, every person who you've ever been there for in a difficult time, whether you knew them or didn't know them. And then all the people they then impacted and start to make a list. And when you actually sit down and think about it, you realize it's not just the 10 people that I worked with. It's the,
And put a number on it.
yes, exactly. There is no number. You are just creating this positivity in the world and this change in the world that is infinite and you will never know it all. And it's the most amazing thing.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And it is for the most part why we do what we do. The second half to that for people like us is just because of growth. Like I know as long as I'm growing, like you said, my interactions and my reactions, whether it's grocery store, baristas, drive through, how I, interact with the road rage people that are cutting me off, or I may have cut somebody off and didn't mean to. And, all of that energy, it matters. So I agree 100%.
Oh, I absolutely love this. I could talk to you all day, but I do want to get to a couple of the questions because the people in the Chasing Happiness community tend to get upset when I skip the questions because they like to use them as catalysts in their real lives. So, one of the questions is if you could have a conversation with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Oh, let's see. Oh, it would be my grandmother. And the reason
Oh,
why my grandmother is deceased, she died in 1996. And of course, now it's 2022. So for me to be able to go back and sit on a bench or whatever to talk with her, just to let her know that everything that the values, morals, different things that she instilled in me, I'm okay. Look at me. I turned out okay because I was a handful. I was a mess. I was on, I wasn't a listener or a thinker like I am now. And I would love for her to see that everything that she did to invest in me, to rear me, to help me, that it wasn't done in vain. Because I don't really know if she really thought that before she took her last breath. She probably was like, well, ain't no help for her.
aw.
So I really would like to have a conversation, have a conversation with her. Now, on the flip side, like as far as like entertainment, and I don't know why it's so strong to me, but I would love to have a conversation with Dr. Maya Angelou.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah, I
one.
would love to have. Lately, I have actually been, if you go on YouTube, there are a lot of interviews, old interviews of her and just different uh, steps, tips, and tools where, I find myself sitting, like I give myself a certain amount of time for any type of social media or whatever,
Sure.
because I value my time. But when I'm listening to her, I'm like, and then I'm looking like, oh my God, wait, I'm sitting, do I turn it off now and then I go do the next task or what? But I would really like to have a conversation with Dr. Maya Angelou.
I love that. She has one of my favorite quotes, and it's actually been sort of a guiding principle for my life in the last 15 years, really. And it's, and I'm going to get it wrong word for word. So, like, if you're listening to this, do not write in that I got it wrong word for word, but it's like people will forget everything except for how you make them feel. That's the thing they're going to remember, right? And it really, especially on the days when I don't feel like I'm showing up as my best authentic self, it is my constant reminder, right? Like, no matter how you show up today, people are going to remember how you're going to make them feel. How do you want them to feel in this interaction? And it's, oh, yes, she's 100% on my list too. I love that you said that. Love it.
And when you know better, do better. That's one of the things that's always in my brain. Like, I have a responsibility. And I feel like when we take ownership, when we take accountability full of our lives, and that just doesn't just mean me as a human being, it means me as a mother, as a grandmother, as a writer, as a business owner, as once an employee, an employer, just whatever that role is. When you take full accountability for that, it's like, okay, I may have messed up a year ago, a minute ago, a month ago, but now that I know better, I should be doing better towards that particular role,
Yes.
or that interaction. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Okay. The next question is, if you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
Live vicariously through yourself. I mean, I can't, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying for those listeners. I'm really not trying to, what is that called when you promote yourself? Honestly, that's not my intention in my heart, but it's true. And solely because that girl many, many years ago, again, I didn't know what to be. I didn't know how to think. I didn't know what to think. I was just, this group of friends wanted me this way. So I was pretending to be this. And then this group wanted me that. And then, when I got a boyfriend and different relationships, and then the job, and then with the colleagues and with the coworkers. And and then the NFL lifestyle. Okay, well, now I got to be this. I was just like all over the place. So being able to just go back and say, listen, be you. I was sharing with another young lady the other day. I was saying, to thine own self be true, but to others be you. 100% be you, whatever that looks like.
I love that. And, for everyone listening, as you had mentioned earlier, Angela, for people who maybe don't even know what that is, the best place to start is start making a list. What makes you feel good? What sets your soul on fire? Where do you find joy? Even though you may not think you find it anywhere in this current moment, like, start asking yourself those questions, because that's how you find you.
And I'm glad that you said that, because it definitely has to be about balance. I know a lot of times we write these lists, and the lists include, the lists are just problems, issues, things I need to change. Right. But then what are some amazing things about you? What are the incredible things that, and from day to day, that go right in your life? Those are things that we need to be talking about as well. I mentioned this on another show that I did last night. The first thing I do, and I'm going to share it with your Chasing Happiness listeners. The first thing I do after I do my affirmations and my meditation, I recognize Angela. You have to recognize you. So in the mirror, I'm like, good morning, and I'm talking to myself. Aww. Like, I'm amazing. I'm this, I'm that, yeah, you got some issues, girl, but hey, we're working through every day, and every way I'm getting better. So you have to make a conscious effort to acknowledge you and yourself. And then in doing so, it opens up opportunities for you to grow and for you to evolve. But facing yourself is very, very difficult. And I think it was designed that way, because it's like your brain, has all of this space or all of this information, but it's ready to unlock it. But it can only do it when you're actually ready to receive it and, right. Be on that path to becoming better.
Yes, I love this. And I love that you've sort of brought it back to the mindset part, because that self-talk and that mindset is so unbelievably important. And if you're not telling yourself on a daily basis that it's okay to be human and you are still magical and you are still a good person, even on your not so great days, you will start to believe that you are those other things instead. And so I love that you brought it back to that. I do want to be respectful of your time. So before I let you go, is there anything else you want to share with the Chasing Happiness community?
All I want to say is just make sure that you understand living vicariously through yourself will open up so many doors, so many opportunities. And it's not about, again, anything external. It's all about being able to take care of everything internally first. And through that, anything that comes at you externally, good, bad, or otherwise, you will become and you will be a much better present person. And that makes all the difference in the world. So please, people do the work. And I know it's human nature to kind of sidestep, and we want like this microwave society. I want it quick. I don't want to work, I want these muscles, but I don't want to go to the gym to do it. I just want to, lift one bottle, whatever. And then I get these, but it doesn't work that way. It takes time. So just embrace that, the journey that you're on, or that you, wherever you decide to go in your journey, continue to make it a happy one, regardless of what happens to you.
Oh, I absolutely love that. This has been an amazing conversation. You've been the highlight of my week so far.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We've been the highlight, for each other. Definitely, I love it when energies collide and it's aligned in a great way, as we mentioned earlier about win-win and being able to, me impart certain things and then being able to take something back from your show as well. So thank you.
Oh, this has been wonderful. And again, for everyone listening, of course, I will post in the show notes all of the links, all of the websites, all the social media, and all the fun stuff so that you can not only contact Angela, but get involved or even just follow the journey, whatever makes your soul sing. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate that you guys come back week after week. 6 years into this podcast, I'm still blown away that you keep coming back every week. So thank you so much, Angela. Thank you for listening. And I hope everybody has a great week. We will chat with you next week. Bye for now.